Who was the original Moriarty? Hello everyone and welcome to another one of my Who was the real life character videos, where I look into anime versions of historical figures, discuss their origins, and judge whether they are an accurate representation of that person. In my previous videos, I talked about Thorfinn Karlsefni and Arde, and their real life counterparts. So since you guys like this series so much, I decided to do another video on an upcoming anime character. Yuukoku no Moriarty, or Moriarty the Patriot, is a pretty cool historical manga whose anime adaptation will come out this October. It is going to be a little different this time since Moriarty is not an actual person, but rather a fictional character appearing in stories by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And believe me when I tell you, this guy is the most accurate representation of Moriarty in all of media. And in a weird way, he's simultaneously the most inaccurate representation of the character. Unlike any other adaptation, this manga makes Moriarty the protagonist and the central focus of the story, while Sherlock Holmes functions as the antagonist, the person who tries to ruin our villainous protagonist's plans. So, let's begin. Who was the original Moriarty? So, most people know Moriarty as the arch-enemy of Sherlock Holmes. But when did he first appear, and is he based on an actual person? Professor Moriarty initially made his first appearance in a short story by Doyle titled The Adventure of the Final Problem, where after a chase with Sherlock Holmes, both hero and villain meet each other at the Reichenbach Falls and seemingly fall to their deaths. So I have to give props to the writer of the manga for beginning the series with this confrontation, depicted in its opening panels. It is a really cool homage to the character's first in-person appearance. Check. 1 point for Moriarty the Patriot. Professor Moriarty in Doyle's works is described as an absolute criminal mastermind. He always stays in the shadows and has a huge army of followers and acolytes doing his bidding. A man whose intellect could only be rivaled by Sherlock Holmes himself. Now, as to which real-life person was the inspiration for Moriarty, Doyle in one of his stories uses a particular phrase, the Napoleon of the criminal world, which was earlier used to describe a notorious American criminal called Adam Worth. Sherlock Holmes himself in one of the stories mentions his mathematical intellect, and in the story The Valley of Fear, he does confirm that Moriarty's official occupation was that of university professor. So, lo and behold, the manga and anime version of Moriarty is also a sinister professor of mathematics. Now, when it comes to his looks, well, let's just say that the manga definitely took some liberties. Yeah, he kind of looks like a shoujo protagonist. Well, wait till you see how Sherlock Holmes looks in this. I mean, both Moriartys are tall and slender. At least there's that. When it comes to the rest of the characters though, the manga makes sure to include every important character that surrounded Moriarty in the books. Colonel Morin, Moriarty's most famous acolyte, check. Moriarty's brothers, check. A literal army of goons and petty criminals following him, check and check. And what's more is that, much like the original Moriarty, manga Moriarty lets his goons do all the dirty work, while he remains in the shadows. He never gets his hands dirty, and he is depicted as more of a schemer. He is the guy who's devising the plan, and who's making sure that he's nowhere near the crime scene when the crime is committed. He also loves to design crimes to look like accidents in order to conceal the existence of his enormous informant and criminal network. This is 100% like Doyle's character. What I love the most is the little additions that the Japanese writer has made, such as the fact that the story begins with a noble family adopting a young boy. And since he's living under their roof, he gets their surname, which is Moriarty. So in a weird way, we never learn what was Moriarty's real name before his adoption, or who were his parents, and a lot of his younger years are shrouded in mystery. Pretty cool addition if you ask me. The Brothers 3 Moriarty. When I first started reading the Moriarty the Patriot manga, I wasn't sure how meticulous of a research the writer had conducted on the original Moriarty. That is until we get to know Moriarty's brothers in the story. Much like many other aspects of Moriarty's character in Doyle's works, details about his family are very few and sometimes contradicting, making the man look even more mysterious. What is certain is that he had at least one brother who worked in the military, referenced in The Adventure of the Final Problem, Colonel James Moriarty, check. But in a later story, The Valley of Fear, there is a strange mention about his younger brother being a station master. So did he have one or two brothers? Yuukoku no Moriarty handles this masterfully, beginning with two young boys in an orphanage being adopted by a family who already had an older son. So, these are Moriarty's two brothers, the younger one, and most likely biological one, being with him at the orphanage, and the older one, the one he met when he was brought in his adoptive household. So, amazingly, this confusion over the number of brothers is worked into the story, since anyone remembering Moriarty at the orphanage could swear that that kid had only one brother, while anyone meeting him after his adoption knew them as the Brothers 3 Moriarty. From now on, I will call manga Moriarty William, because it is getting tiring to hear the same name. Is this depiction accurate? So far, I have talked about the external look of the series and some interesting character details, but it is time to talk about the feel, the soul, the character of Moriarty. William does invoke a lot of Moriarty's dark Machiavellian undertones. He isn't just a well-coordinated thief or a ruthless king of crime. He is the devil himself. If he succeeds, the world will burn, and no one will be safe. Moriarty in Doyle's books apparently had gained control of a huge chunk of the British criminal underworld, and according to Sherlock Holmes himself, may have been behind many of the crimes Holmes had previously solved. In other depictions of the character in many media, Moriarty's ultimate goal is some vague quest for world domination. But the reality is that in Doyle's mind, there was likely no goal to begin with. The whole reason for the creation of Moriarty was so that he, a criminal of unparalleled intelligence and malice, could kill Sherlock Holmes. Moriarty the Patriot does something very bold and also very controversial. William wants to create a massive revolution that will destabilize, destroy, and eventually replace the social order and the hierarchy of his time. And how is he going to do that, you ask? First, by recruiting every criminal in the country to act as his personal undercover army. And then, by using this underground network to A. assassinate key targets in the government, B. enrage the masses with the rampant unending waves of crime, and C. finally use the anger of the average folk to take down the government. And it doesn't stop there. The manga reimagines and reincorporates many of Sherlock Holmes' stories in order to make it look like they were all part of William's plan. A Study in Scarlet, The Hound of the Baskervilles, and many other stories are all there. All these elements result in an incredibly complex narrative which makes William look like a master manipulator. However, something that will either make or break your immersion and your experience with this manga is this. It gets kinda political. Let me explain. You see, Moriarty grew up as a child seeing all the nobles in the United Kingdom treating the simple folk horribly. He watched as simple people, poor people were manipulated, used, beaten. He himself was also beaten as a child, so he really hates the aristocracy and he wants to take them down. Alright? And this is where the story becomes kind of preachy and maybe even biased, because every single noble we've met is a horrible monster. And no, I don't mean just looking down on the lower classes. I mean bloodthirsty cannibals. I mean people that torture and kill for fun. And not just one or two nobles, every single noble we've met. The goblins from Goblin Slayer committed less crimes than these nobles. It's crazy. And I get why the writer is doing this. He wants us to empathize with the common folk and with William himself. And he wants to kind of justify William killing the nobles. But that is a very weird political message. Like, it feels as if William and the writer are drawing a direct link between wealth and morality. William and his brothers, the brothers Three Moriarty, are the perfect example that you can be poor and skilled and productive and still be immoral. And listen, maybe this is all part of William's plan. Maybe he really doesn't care about the masses. And he wants to appear like a rebel, a revolutionary that will take down the nobles. And here's the thing, there was nothing political about Moriarty in the original. There was never any mention about changing the social order or destroying the aristocracy or changing the political system. There was nothing there. So I'm curious how the manga will continue and how the anime will handle this. I have spoken with other people who have read this manga and they didn't seem to bother with this. They said that Moriarty in the manga feels like a cool amalgamation of Andrew Ryan and a little bit of the Joker. So, as I said in the beginning, this might just be the single most accurate depiction of the character, and simultaneously the single most inaccurate depiction of Moriarty. So, what do you guys think based on what I've showed you today? Is this depiction accurate? Have you read the Moriarty the Patriot manga? And are you excited about the upcoming anime? If you want to watch more videos of me analyzing anime characters based on real and fictional personalities, then check out these videos. And if you like this video, then hit like and smash the subscribe button. If you have any other cool idea for a video on Moriarty the Patriot, then let me know and write it down in the comments. I will see you in my next video, guys. Until next time, my fellow criminal masterminds.